these truths to be self-evident.
That all men are created equal.
As a member of Congress, I get to have a lot of really interesting people in the office. Experts on what they're talking about.
This is the podcast
For insights into the issues.
China, bioterrorism, Medicare for all. In-depth discussions.
Breaking it down into simple terms. We hold
these truths.
We hold these truths.
with Dan Crenshaw.
The Eagle has landed.
Welcome back, folks, to Hold These Truths, greatest podcast ever. And if you haven't given it 5 stars, what are you doing with your life? We have a really cool podcast for you today with a good friend of mine, Rick Walker. We're gonna talk a lot about his recent book, which is called The 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning. So it is, it's one of those books I think definitely deserves to be one of the ones you might see at the airport with all those other self-help books, but this one's really good. And I can say that just because I know Rick, and we talk a lot. We've been friends ever since the primary election. We'll talk about that here too. And he's a deep thinker. He has his own podcast called
Rick Walker Podcast.
Rick Walker Podcast. Yeah. You've had some pretty amazing guests on it, myself included. But bigger than me. Like, who else have you had on that?
Had Dr. Ben Carson, had Don Jr.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Other people, yeah.
Yeah, not nothing. And so we're filming in your studio today because I don't have a studio in the Houston area anymore. We sort of used to, but not anymore. And we're back home for August recess. So glad we were able to do this. Rick, thanks for being on my podcast. And we're going to cross-post it to the Rick Walker podcast,
Yes.
of course. And but we'll get going. I mean, I want to start with the book. We got so much to talk about. I mean, we can just kind of shoot the shit on a number of things. But your book, 9 Steps to Building a Life of Meaning, you know, it's, I want to start with, you talk about Alexander the Great a lot throughout the book, and it kind of ends, the epilogue ends with your take on Alexander the Great, as sort of in a sense like a precursor, like a fallible precursor to Jesus. And maybe we start there because it's kind of interesting how you see Alexander the Great and why you integrate him so much into all of these different lessons that you have here, and there's a variety of them. We'll get to them, and I like the way you write it too, because it's like these like little sections that are super easy to digest really quickly. That makes it easier on the reader to just move through something fast, and it feels attainable. So, you know, I like that about your book also. I don't like the part where you claim that I'm going to read this. So I don't like this part, because you're a liar. I'm inspired by Dan's love for cats and pocket-sized dogs. Okay, come on. I know why you wrote that. It's because of my accusations against you. During a primary.
Look. If I'm at a polling location and you're bringing 2 small dogs to the polling location,
But they're not pocket-sized.
and I have to ask whether they're cats or dogs.
You didn't have to. And I'm not a cat person. I'm not against people who are cat people, okay? You know, but I'm not owning a cat. Anyway.
I think those are the only 2 words I changed in the book after you read it.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about Aristotle, or not Aristotle. Well, actually him too, because you mentioned him a lot. But Alexander the Great. But actually, first, maybe we start with a little bit of our personal history.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, people don't even know why we know each other. So we met each other because we were running against each other in the 2017 primary.
Yeah.
And then we we were friendly back then. Nobody was focused on me, luckily, at the time. It was just kind of how I won, I guess. And but you know, a lot of us actually stayed friends. Definitely, I've kind of lost touch. I wouldn't say I'm not friends with like a few of them, but we've obviously gotten much closer over the years. So appreciate your friendship, and Shannon, your wife, and my wife Tara have become really great friends. Shannon's a huge rock for Tara as we go through things. So thank you for that. So, well, you know, and you do talk about the election in here, and maybe that's the second thing we'll get to. But that's how we know each other.
Yeah.
And you've been a great friend for me ever since, and that's why I wrote the prologue for this book, because you're a true friend. So I don't like extra work, but I'll do it for a real friend.
I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. Yeah, and I think it says a lot about our mutual respect for one another. The morning after you beat me handedly and a number of other individuals. We found out probably at 10 o'clock at night. The very next day, we met for lunch. I don't know if you remember that. We met for lunch with a number of other people there.
Was that at Torchy's Tacos?
That was at Boss Cat Kitchen.
Boss Cat.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
For some reason, I remember Torchy. Maybe that was a different meeting.
Maybe a different meeting. Yeah. But I think that we said, and just from a personal perspective, that was like really the first definitive L I've ever taken in my life, because it wasn't one of those things I could get around and have an excuse for. No, it was I got straight up beat, pounded. By a man that was better for the job, better at campaigning, and more like better position with a better narrative, better story, and obviously a better communicator than me. And so I think that was one of the reasons why I needed to include that story in the book, because a man like me, like we don't get beat outright very often, and that was such a public, and at times it was a shameful thing for me to take that sort of L. I mentioned there how my mom texted me that night a screenshot from NBC National News. You know, if NBC National News is calling you a liar like that, that kind of penetrates your soul. Not a liar, but a loser.
Yeah.
It penetrates your soul.
Let's think about elections. You can see the exact numbers of people who didn't vote for you. So it's rough every time.
Yes. Yeah.
But we get over it, right? We had lunch, and I remember I think you just had some basic, because we'd gotten to know each other a little bit, but not really well, and I just as politics was so different back then too. I respected pretty much everybody in that 9-way primary. Everybody jumped in. Ted Poe announced retirement. It was November 2017. It was a sprint to March. That's the only reason I felt I could even do it, because I was between careers. I just left the military and master's degree, so I was like, why not? But if we're talking like a year out, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have had the capability, the financial capability to live that long without a job. So it just, it was a wild time. Politics has changed a lot in the sense that, and I say this a lot at my events recently, where it's like we had a good group of people for the most part, people who were like respectable, have read books, jobs, have had careers. And man, the people who are coming out of the woodworks to run these days, it's not that, and it's scary. We didn't have any of that crazy in that primary. It changed a lot in the 2020 years, and that's unfortunate. A lot of reasons for that. I think there's the squad that came in my class, and then there was like the anti-squad, and then the anti-squad, and it just sort of keeps escalating. And people see running for politics or political office these days as like a way to boost their social media. Because in the end, what they really want is to be like social media influencers, and it's like that's not the point. You use that to help build your policy out, but it's it's a tool, not a
and you need that tension in order to move forward, I imagine, in a political environment. And I think with the energy that you brought out of the first campaign and then winning the runoff and winning the general, I think a lot of people wrote you off as sort of a popularity type of candidate. And then you pivoted and you put out Fortitude, New York Times bestselling book, and you showed people that you had serious academic chops and serious kind of leadership thoughts. I mean, you look at the pervasive themes of Stoicism throughout the book. You look at the stories, you look at the narratives, you look at the hardships. I think in that book, you really relate to people like, no, this is a person of substance. And that's something that now when you go back and you look at people that are entering politics, they don't have substance. They haven't gone through the pain. They haven't gone through the fire. They haven't been forged by life in a way that you had. And I think that's one of the reasons why, I was able to step back. I think we debated 9 times. I was able to step back and look at you and think, well, this is a guy that's younger than me, but it's also one of the very few people that I can actually respect because you've been through the pain, you've overcome the tragedy time and time again, and you move forward, which is the opposite of the people that claim the victim status, that want credence, that want position without having ever earned it. And so that's one of the reasons why I respected you early on.
Well, appreciate that. And it's also a theme in your book, right? This kind of victimhood mentality, the desire for comfort. We'll get to all that actually, but let's go back to Alexander the Great. Why? I like it because it's such an interesting historical figure and everything he did. But let's analyze Alexander for a minute and maybe use that as a jumping off point to some of the other concepts in the book.
Yeah. So the book began as a 900-page treatise. It's only 247 now, and this current.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's
it's a little bit better.
That's a good idea.
But it was unreadable. It was unreadable. But it's one of the themes.
Overthought it.
Yes, overthought it. And the editor came back and said, "Hey, Rick, like either you can write what you want to write, or you can have something that people actually will read, right?" So I thought, well, let's start chopping. So I spent almost a year chopping down and getting to this current form.
Yeah.
But one of the themes throughout was this idea of the intersection between the divine and the material. And so, like Lewis would say that, the intellect, the kind of the imaginative aspect of a man is sort of the divine part, and the stomach is sort of that bestial part, that part that connects us with the animals, that thing that drives us to want to pursue our passions. But the properly aligned man, much like a Plato's proper man, is the man that kind of uses his chest, he uses his heart to make the decisions. Like that's what we're meant to be. So it's sort of this merging between the God, the divine part of us, and the bestial part of us, the man part of us, into the proper person, the person that lives through his chest, the person that lives through his heart. And so you begin to see these sorts of figures throughout history. You're able to see this in Achilles, for instance. You're able to see this in Hercules. You're able to see this in Alexander the Great, where they claim to be half God and half men. Mm-hmm. And this seems to be sort of a primer towards the actual man who's actually fully God and fully man. And so you see these things. But Alexander the Great is sort of that prototypical person that we all really should aim towards, but we're also realizing that he's a man of fault and great failures like we are.
Yeah, but in the epilogue, you just mentioned it just now, but I want you to maybe expand upon it. And I know we're kind of starting at the end of the book, but it's just interesting. So he has these failures. He sees himself as a demigod, as did Hercules. Oh, I don't think Hercules was real, but Alexander certainly was, and yeah, I mean whatever. Somebody had his father killed, and then he claimed that wasn't even his father. He claimed Zeus is his father, and goes on to conquest the world. There's a couple of things that stood out to me that are your interesting analysis of him. One is kind of vanity. Overtook him, and the insecurities eventually overtook him. And it's like, man, insecurities of a man who has taken over the known world. Eventually loses in Afghanistan, which everybody does, apparently. We actually didn't, we just gave up like idiots.
Retreated.
Let's not get into that. But the truth is nobody's ever conquered the hinterlands of Afghanistan, right? Yeah. That's been true since Alexander the Great. And now, there's a lot of I think logistical factors that also probably fed into that loss, but in the end, it's this just lack of humility that overtook him. But talk about the connection with that then the divinity and the kind of the perfection of Jesus 300 something years later.
Yeah. And so the mistake that Alexander made, like you said, was after he had his father, King Philip II, assassinated, supposedly, he goes on to then claim that wasn't good enough, that his father was, the king of that part of the world, but that Zeus had to be his father. So he interjects this lie. Now, whether it's a narrative lie, something of lore that he wants people to believe in order to accrue greater power or not, that's
whether he believes it or he goes and visits an oracle at some point. These are the stories at least, and so maybe he does believe it. It doesn't really matter.
Yes, yeah. But he puts that lie out there, and he lets his commanders sort of believe that. And so all of a sudden, over time, through his great success and through that lie, they begin to realize that they really can't approach him. Right? He's a God man, and they can't really he can't really hear the truth. Like they're not going to tell him the truth. And so all of a sudden the people around him, they begin to warp the truth around him, and it becomes a very untenable position for him in the long run. And that's a lesson for us as well. Don't think too highly of yourself, right? You're supposed to honor the gods for a reason. They're gods, you're mortal.
Yeah.
And so this is thematic interlude that's throughout the story of Alexander. Now, whenever we move forward from Alexander to Christ, we begin to be able to see these similarities where Alexander begins to do the same things that Christ does. Alexander brings his army from Macedonia into Jerusalem, and he has a conversation with the Jewish priests.
Does he convert to Judaism there? He basically converts to anything that he conquers. Is sort of the story of Alexander.
Yeah.
Right?
So
he becomes a pharaoh. And
that's right. That's right. Yeah,
it's all over the place.
Yeah, he absorbs the identity of the people around him, and I think that's also sort of the story of the city that he founded, Alexandria. Right. He's trying to arbitrage. Right. He's trying to bring together and mediate all these various disparate religious beliefs and be able to use it for himself.
It seems at first he does pretty well, but it kind of goes off the deep end eventually.
Yeah. I make the inference that he converts to Judaism in the book based off of not only Eusebius, but Origen and Josephus's words, where he actually enters the temple and makes a sacrifice under the purview of Janus.
So we don't know for sure, but that's an inference based on. Okay.
Yeah. I think if you asked him, he would not say that he was a Jew. But I think you look at his actions, he fulfilled a lot of the obligations.
As much as he could to, I guess, again, embrace the identity.
Yeah. Given his constraints on global dominations and things like that. Yeah. So then he moves out of there and he moves into Samaria, which is one of these rare areas of the world where there's just a bunch of misfits. They're sort of half-breeds in a way, half Jews, half miscellaneous, and they worship sort of an invented god up on a mountain. And so they go and Alexander allows them to after he conquers the people, he destroys them. He allows them to build a temple up on this mountain, Mount Gerizim. And
in modern day, where exactly Judea and Samaria? I mean, it's near modern day Israel.
So it's I think it's on the west side of the Jordan. So if you were in Jerusalem, you were to maybe go up to Syria area, north. You would generally walk through Samaria, I believe, and the Jews would walk around it. So they would cross the Jordan, walk opposite the Jordan in order to avoid Samaria.
Not to quiz you on exact geography of this complicated region, but just for the readers. Okay, got it. That's all we need.
Yeah. And so you see these similar acts, and there's also quite a few tales of Alexander going into India. But why? Why is the big question? Why is he moving around like this? Why is he dominating these countries and moving very quickly? You could say he was the cruel power, but it's also rumored that he was in pursuit of this fountain of youth that had been rumored for generations, and the thing that would make dead men live and make sick men well, and it would restore sort of this eternal idea that he was a god, and you be able to see this happening. When Jesus comes into Samaria, he begins to tell the tale of a life-giving spring that sprouts up there. And the only thing that had happened for the last 300 years would be that Alexander conquered Samaria and Jesus entered Samaria. There's been no other material types of stories happening to this people of Samaria in 300 years.
Yeah.
And the odds that the two greatest, probably the only two men that could be considered sort of black swan level men, Alexander the Great and Jesus, both came to the same little people and talked about the same little mountain. Supposedly for the same.
And both in the context of Fountain of Youth?
The Fountain of Youth, yeah. Jesus is saying the water that I give you will become in you a wellspring of eternal life. So he's saying that the fountain is actually
something very different than what Alexander is saying.
Correct.
Just to be clear. And I think that's the distinction you're making.
That's right. Christ is corrective of Alexander's pursuit.
Right.
Yeah. And he sets the principle.
Alexander's a very simple pursuit. It's like, take the pill, you live forever. Like it's your modern day, I think, thought of a fountain of youth, what all the movies are made about.
Yeah.
Jesus's teachings on this are not that, right?
They're not that.
So explain that, maybe dive into that just slightly for us.
Yeah. So now Alexander has
It's mostly salvation, that's right.
Now Alexander has this fascination with this God-man. It's said that he went on a pursuit and actually took the armor of Achilles and wore it himself.
Yeah.
So he has this sort of story type of backing. This fascination.
Hopefully, he added some extra guards around the heels, because that's where the armor
supposedly
didn't work so well.
Yes, that's right. So he's got this this armor. He may be wearing
probably
it
wore
very
flip flops because they all did. But anyway, go,
Probably
sorry.
so. Probably so. And so he's wearing this. He's talking about this, and he's also reading the stories of Achilles at night. It's said that I think Aristotle gave him a sort of pocket version of Homer that to read these stories at night. So he's out camping with his men in between these great winds, reading these stories about these epics. And so he has sort of this hero journey. He's wearing the armor of Achilles. He's talking about this fountain.
He's got Aristotle as a mentor.
Yes.
It's like, you got a lot going for you.
A lot.
So, it's
A lot.
And so we'll keep going, and because I want to ask you another question. Maybe wrap this into as you speak, because you talk about aiming high in this book, and you actually use Alexander as an example of someone who did the opposite and aimed low. And it's like, how do you say that about someone who literally aimed for everything? Yeah. So I'll leave it there, but keep going.
Yeah.
So he has the armor of Achilles and all this. And
Yeah. So you have all these symbolic pointers. But what Alexander maybe was thinking, what was going on in his mind, but there were clear things that he would go out of his way to be able to pursue. The fountain of youth, the armor of Achilles, that sort of thing. The oracle of Delphi, these sorts of things. Then you fast forward to Christ, who is talking about these sorts of things, where the theology and the people that are talking about him are pointing him, saying, no, like this isn't just half God, half man. He's fully God and fully man. He's sort of the fulfillment of it. And then Christ says that the fountain, the water that I give, so he's actually kind of the master fountain, will become in you a fountain welling up to eternal life. So that he sets forth the idea that the fountain that gives life is not something external in the world. It's not something that comes out of the material world, up from hell to heaven.
Yeah.
It's something that comes from inside, and it comes down from heaven inside the man. And he gives us sort of a role where we are the fountains. And he says, like, go forth and give the water, make life.
If you live with faith and grace, that's your salvation to eternal life.
Yes.
And that's not what Alexander meant, life on earth. That's not what Jesus meant.
That's right. Christ used life as the pathway in the end. Alexander uses death in order to find a way to escape the ramifications of his life.
Is that why you then label him as someone who aimed too low, in a sense?
Yeah. So he starts with the deception about his father. He starts potentially with the murder of his actual father. And
the rumor is his mother did that, right?
Yeah, the rumor is that, yeah. And we forget that his own mother led the same army that he used after his death.
Oh, yeah. How much research did you do in Alexander the Great? Because, my last books, I read 3 books in high school, there was a language barrier because it was my Spanish class, and so I had to read them in Spanish. I loved it. They were great books.
Yeah.
I don't even know who the author is, but I'd highly recommend it because I believe they were translated into Spanish. It's called Alexandros, and I don't know, but they were great. So you did a ton of research, it seems like.
Yeah.
On this.
Well, I think a lot
something
of this
fascinates you about Greek mythology.
a lot of this has just been casual learning up to now. Again, I'm 46. What came out when I was 46?
I'm a casual learner of Greek mythology, like most people.
Yeah.
like most people.
But I probably read about 1,000 books since I turned 20. Would be my guess. So over 25 years. And so all of that sort of poured in there. And if you read the text, you read the language, you read the thickness and the depth of each sentence that I rewrote many times, you'll see that I try to make it the densest book possible. And that was part of the challenge, like what stories do you put in there? And so I realized I had to write not only narrative about what's happening historically, but I also had to write narrative that also could be seen symbolically. So I want to be able to give you one sentence that they can realize that it also has there's a verticality to it as well as a horizontal. It's not only talking about sort of the relationship between men, but it's also talking about the morality between a man and God.
So let me clarify what you mean by that. So the vertical meaning sort of an attachment to some kind of old, timeless philosophy of sorts, whether that's a biblical philosophy or just regular human Aristotelian philosophy, whatever it is, but also then the horizontal being like, what are the practical uses of this idea, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's tough. Yeah, and it's tough. So getting 900 pages and down to 200. Yeah, that's a
lot of cutting.
A lot of cutting. Maybe. Yeah.
But to put it like put that very thing sort of in a very simple framework. Again, I'm a business guy. I believe that competency plus integrity over time becomes your identity. So sort of a formula. Your competency plus your integrity become your identity. So that my competency, how I deal with the individuals around me, the situations around me, sort of this horizontal life, plus the way I handle the morality, the integrity, the verticality of the life become my identity over time. And that's a good, simple framework on how to think about it.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that idea of identity. We could argue identity all day long. Okay, so that's the. I wanted to start with that because it's so interesting. You bring up Alexander throughout the book. So let's go back then to the beginning and start with you. And like, why you even wrote it? Why'd you feel the need to write it? Why'd you want to write 900 pages? What's going on? You're not busy enough?
So first it began as an obligation. I mentioned 1,000 books would be my guess, probably more. And I have an opportunity like you. We meet a lot of interesting people, just walking around. We have sort of an asymmetric type of life where we meet these insanely impossible people to meet. Repeatedly, over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so I realized.
Me through politics, you through your business and connections, like, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't meet anybody cool otherwise. I would, yeah.
But I think there's certain people that just sort of attract certain types of people as well. And so like Shannon's one of those people. Like we went out shopping for her birthday out to the Galleria Mall.
Yeah.
And Dennis Rodman walks up and starts helping her shop for her birthday.
Whoa.
And so
I've never heard that story. How have I not heard that story?
Well, say there's like a million of those.
What do you mean there's a million
of those? Yeah.
You know Dennis? Why do you know Dennis
So
Rodman?
then we go to the bar with Dennis Rodman afterwards. When she's holding the
Did
shoes.
you already know Dennis Rodman?
No, we've never met him before.
Well, then why was he helping you shop?
Okay, this is the same day. So he's helping us shop at the gallery.
But why? How does Dennis Rodman just end up
Because my
helping
wife
Shannon?
just attracts people. She just attracts people.
Okay, she has
So
that
I'm sitting there,
bubbly kind of person. Yeah, okay. Okay, fair enough. And he's like, okay. There's got to be more details to this story but anyway, keep going.
He walks by, sees her trying on shoes, helps her pick out shoes.
What color is his hair right now?
Oh man, was it green or purple? I've got pictures. I'll show you pictures later. But so we do that. We go to the bar, and he wants us to stay for drinks. We have to go to dinner, and we decide we didn't have reservations, so we didn't have reservations for more than two. And it's a very tough place to get into. So we go to dinner.
Even with Dennis Rodman? Didn't they know?
They would know. They would know. But after dinner, we go up and we end up bumping into Jeremy Renner.
Oh yeah.
From
like the Avengers.
From the Avengers, yeah.
In Houston, like what is
in
happening?
Houston?
What is happening
So we're
right
we're having drinks with
He's
Jeremy
not from
Renner.
here. Like why is he even here?
And Jeremy Renner says, "Well, your kids watch Marvel movies?" I say, "Yeah." So he FaceTimes our daughters twice that night to talk about Avengers with them.
I don't get these kind of cool.
But it's like this stuff. It's a big you do.
Maybe
You're like all the time.
hang out in the Galleria more.
Well.
I mean, that's where they're all at. That's so funny.
But some of the most interesting people I've met through you. But irregardless, like there's a certain type of person that seems like fate or God just wants you to meet a whole lot of different people and be able to sort of ingest that. And if you waste those experiences, you don't build relationships, you don't have conversations that really matter.
Yeah.
Then you know. So all those conversations, plus the books, plus sort of the work experience, that led me to believe that I had a responsibility to be able to write a book. The purpose of the book is to help men that are 25 to 45 in this meaning crisis that, you know, they have a loveless life, they have a life where there's no positive vision of what they want to see. And I provide a non-academic formula to get them out of there. So it's contrary to like a Dr. John Vervaeke who writes about the meaning crisis, who also blurbs the book. It's the opposite framework that Jordan Peterson would use from an academic perspective. Because I'm a doer, I'm not a pontificator primarily, and that's sort of the hope. It's the inversion of what else is out there on the market.
Yeah, and you know, speaking to that young age group, I mean, maybe that's why you start the book where you do with this Miami story.
Yeah.
So what's that all about? Sounds like a lot of fun, but I think that's the pitfall, right? That's the paradox.
Yeah. Well, in order for me to set up an argument that I'm qualified to speak to someone, I have to prove to that person that I either have a competency of knowledge or that I have something that they would want. And so I don't want to use wealth as something that they would want. Obviously, I don't
Plenty
wanna show,
of books on that already.
Yeah, plenty of that. Yeah, but I'm trying to show experiences. Like I found myself in different experiences, and so like the very first sentence of the book, I think is like one of those things that it's the hook.
Let's find it. You trying to remember?
Yeah.
Don't worry, I have a copy. Right here. I want to give him past this. Who wrote this crappy foreword?
It's an amazing
It's not
foreword.
very good. My dad and I were both out of work one
sorry.
summer.
After the introduction.
that.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, after the intro.
Yeah.
But I mean, that also kind of gets to the story. Is like, he didn't grow up rich. He grew up kind of figuring out what we call arbitrage. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
The beheading DVD arrived days before I was to attend an invite-only event for future global leaders, co-hosted by former U.S. President Bill Clinton's foundation. It's okay. Yeah. So that's a setup. What the beheading DVD?
Yeah. So I wanted to provide a hook that let people know. In the introduction, you learned that I was poor, I was out of work, that my dad was out of work. We didn't grow up with means. But I want to really fast forward and show sort of the density of that sort of thing. Like that story that I told you with Dennis Rodman and Jeremy Renner all in the same day. I found these sort of experiences sort of compound. They all happen within a day or two. They happen in clusters, for me anyway. And so that was an example of a cluster where we're doing nonprofit work. We're going into very, very dangerous parts of the world. I mean, you were physically there. I was there, I guess strategically, and
I have
so
more protection.
And we were sending men in there to do ideological warfare, mainly through faith and humanitarian efforts, to de-radicalize certain individuals in north of the Sahel region and other places as well. And over time, we had about a 2,000 person team at that time. 52 of them, as of that point, 52 of them had been murdered.
Jeez.
And this was a case where we had actually received the beheading DVD at the home. I was the chairman, so the number 2 guy received the beheading DVD at his home the day after he had been in Niger and Mali with this individual. So maybe in 2 days, but it was very quick. It was definitely that week. And so he'd just been with this guy. Now they're not only sending the beheading video to let you know that, hey, the work you've been doing here is all for nothing because this guy's dead now.
Also, we know your address.
Yeah, I know your home address, right? And that begins to put pressure on you. So at that point, you can decide whether or not you truly believe that evil is worthwhile, something you want to fight or something you're going to cower from.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of pivotal moment that we're all struck with. I suspect if we go back and look at
It's
our
a moral
lives,
question, but it's a very practical one.
Yeah.
I mean, what resources do you have to fight this particular evil?
That's right. But I think you can probably rewind your life and you could probably identify 2, 3, 4, 5 decisions that really impacted who you are today.
Yeah, because I mean, the chapter of this book is choose one worthy enemy.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just obviously evil terrorists are a worthy enemy. It's like, but at the same time, you might want to leave those to the Navy SEALs. So like, but you mean this more broadly? I mean, just in life, like, you know, what do you mean by the need for an enemy? It's almost like just something you want things to aspire to, but also things to not aspire to in a way. And again, like, kind of goes back to your Miami experience. Like, is that all woven together?
So the reason why we're sitting here, and this is just a big man cave, but the reason why we're sitting in a place like this is because when I was in high school, I never met anyone wealthy. I never met anyone successful, and even most of college. But I knew what I didn't want. I knew I didn't want to be broke. I knew I didn't want to be poor. I knew I didn't want my kids to struggle for money. Like, I remember, Dan, growing up, and we were in the back of HEBs diving in dumpsters for Dennett cans. It gets pretty real when you're doing that, you know, once or twice a month. I didn't want that, but I never had a positive vision of what I did want. So I was able to at least begin sort of that journey towards success because I had a negative vision of what I didn't want. I never had a positive vision of what I do want. And I think that's what a lot of young men have now is they don't have a positive vision of what they do want, so they don't move. Like they stay where they are. They embrace indifference. They embrace comfort. And my desire through the story and through the book is to rip away the comfort enslaving their potential.
Yeah.
And if they have no positive vision of what they want to do, perhaps I could stir within their souls and with their hearts that there's something that they hate. Like there's some manifest evil, whether it's the sex trafficking site that doesn't respect minors, whether it's fentanyl, whether it's child slavery. There's all these manifest evils there.
That's a great point.
And if I can convince you...
Because it is hard to say, like, hey, what do you want to do with your life? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even know what I want to do when I grow up. I mean, it's, so...
But what do you hate?
Yeah, but something, and now that I'm understanding what you're saying better, it's like what you hate could also be what it's hate and love are almost indistinguishable in this conversation.
Yes.
Like I love children, so I'm going to join a human trafficking organization that fights the trafficking of children. I hate the traffickers.
Yeah.
And you also make the point in this book that's like you really don't know what love is until you can hate something.
Yeah.
That's an interesting bold statement.
There's this statement by Paul in Rome, in his letter to the Romans, where he says, now I'm a public school kid, so when I see a semicolon, I'm thinking equals, like both the statements on the other side of the semicolon are equals, because I'm a simpleton like that. So he says this, he says, hate what is evil, semicolon, cling to what is good.
Hate what is
evil, cling to what is good.
Okay.
Now, C.S. Lewis looked at this sentence and he says, that means that the only way to get a bit of good is by hating the evil. That you can never get one without you can never get the love, you can never get the goodness without hating the evil.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me that it sort of makes sense, right? Like the purpose of light is to invade the darkness. Like that is light's purpose. The purpose of the good is to invade the evil.
Right.
We begin to see these similarities, and you see this not only in the Christian and Jewish literature, you also see this in the literature going back to the Tao Te Ching, where it talks about the necessary role of the light, that the Tao, the yin and the yang, how these operate, they're both cohesive. And if you follow that idea that it's necessary to be able to hate in order to be able to get any good, you follow that to this necessary conclusion, you'll be able to realize that a dangerous man cannot ever love. I mean, excuse me, a man that cannot hate can ever really love. Like it takes the expulsion of that which is not love in order to embrace love. It's the same way with truth. If I'm not willing to retract my eyes from that which is false, I can never see that which is right.
Yeah.
And so you see this interoperability, and so that's where we begin to build the stage and the platform that there's some sort of indwelling reason beyond religion, beyond anything else, that we're called, like sort of in our DNA, in our core, to fight evil.
So what did you choose? I mean, because you have a lot of your personal stories in here. You've mentioned some of them throughout our conversation. How you kind of grew up, and and then what? And how did you come across your own? I guess the worthy enemy.
Yeah. So right now, my objective is to help this generation rip away the comfort now enslaving their potential. But the advantage that I have...
That's the whole problem. It's getting worse because AI makes everything easier.
Yes.
Everything is easier. We complain about, I make the joke, like, when in human history can we complain that the Wi-Fi is not working? And I'm one of them. Look, I don't like, it was I paid for it. It should work. But you're also barreling through the sky at 30,000 feet. And it's like, that's kind of amazing.
It is.
So, it's the complaints we hear these days. Perspective is important.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the deal, because it's not all their fault. They were told when they were growing up by their grandma, by their mom, by their dad, by their school teachers, that they had all this potential. They were told by their professors in school, whenever they got that MBA, they would come out and they'd make $250,000 a year, and they would be prepared to run the company from day one. Mm-hmm. They were promised all these things. They were told that their potential was unlimited. But then all of a sudden they get out of school and a decade's passed. They realize, well, where was all the potential I was promised? Like where were all the promises? All the promises fell flat.
And this is a new problem. Because you're really Gen X. I'm kind of like almost Gen X. Yeah. I'm elder millennial. There's a lot more realism in our generation about like I had 4 roommates in my mid-20s. Like that's okay. I was a Navy SEAL. I mean, like people are like, I can't even. It seems like these days that's unimaginable, and that they can't live in the city that they want to. They'd have to live 20 minutes outside of it. And so it's like, on the one hand, yes, it's not fair to the younger generation that housing prices are just higher. It's always going to happen because there's just more people and the space hasn't increased. So, welcome to just supply demand. But also it's expectations, and it's like, why do you even expect this? It was a false promise.
Yes.
And it only started in the last maybe 20 years or so. I don't know when it started, but the sort of the coddling, that's right, like Jonathan Haidt's, like the coddling of the American mind. I think that's kind of part of it. He doesn't really talk about false expectations, or false expectation management, but I think that's part of it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, they've used, no matter whose fault it is, we get confused excuses for reasons. Not all excuses are legitimate reasons. Mm-hmm. And we think because we can conjure up an excuse, then we have a reason for why we never pursued that thing that we were built to pursue.
Yeah.
So we pad that with indifference. Now we do that as well, like not just the people that are younger than us. We do that as well as people that are fairly successful in life. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to rip away that comfort. I believe comfort is the real enemy. I align with Jordan Peterson on that front. But the contrary is those people, those young men that were promised all that potential being unlocked so they could run the companies, do all this afterwards, they also want to see their potential unleashed. They want to see it concretized. And so my passion, my vision to rip it away, the comfort so they can unleash their potential, that happens to be their vision as well. And so that's why I have hope that this project can move forward and there'll be some additional reciprocity of it.
Well, it is a practical value, and I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I want to clarify. I mean, it's easy to say, aim high, like be your best self, do all that. That's a little harder for some people to implement. It was easy for me. I knew from like age 9 or whatever I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. That was always easy. I never had any other choice. I just never gave myself another choice. It was easy. It became a little harder when I had to get out of the SEAL teams. But that's not everyone has that really obvious goal. And so I like what you say where that's why I wanted to clarify what like a war of the enemy means. Like it's harder and harder actually to tell people like go here, because it was easier generations ago. There were certain jobs in certain industries and you could work for that company for 30 years. Now kids are jumping around every year to a different job and trying to find themselves, quote unquote. They don't feel fulfilled. They feel like they should be in a position of way higher authority and pay and all that, like way earlier than I think I ever thought. So that's the expectation management problem. And so what you're saying is, if you are struggling to find that, it wouldn't hurt to maybe find something you hate.
Yeah.
But again, that can, but turn that into a positive.
Yeah.
A positive action against something you hate.
Yeah. Andy Stanley puts it this way. He says, like, what's the one thing that breaks your heart?
Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Break your heart.
Yeah. Hate's such a strong word.
And when you have kids, it gets very clear about what breaks your heart. It's the things that impact your kids and your grandkids one day. But before that happens, it's a little bit difficult to uncover. And so I challenge people to look at the most vulnerable people around them. Like look at the children, look at the people that maybe don't have parents, the orphans, look at widows. It's generally these most vulnerable society that are taking the most advantage of. And if you sort of open your eyes to what's really happening, that will over time break your heart and will cause you to at least want to go do something to help.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we'll move on. We're not going to move on to everything because I want people to actually read the book. So we're going to give it all away right now. Maybe while it's on top of my mind, when you talk about the election, you guys have been going through some like tough business failure. Really successful businesses. You're in all sorts of things, right? Like commercial real estate, arbitrage, like financial advising and consulting. Some of that was falling apart in 2017, but also this opportunity came up. Ted Poe announced retirement, one of our longstanding congressmen, and he announced it in November, so that's pretty late time to announce it, and I get why he did that. I kind of like how he did that, but that's a sprint that causes a sprint election.
Yes,
and because it gives no one any time to prepare, and that helped anyone with money. And we had some people with some money, but you spent a lot of your own money, and it didn't help me. Well, without relitigating the whole election, because we talked about it already, you say that I saved you by beating you.
Yeah.
So explain that. So things got a lot better apparently afterwards, and so it became a blessing in disguise somehow.
It did.
And I think there's a broader lesson there. Sorry to cut you off, but like broader lesson, because I've failed. I've been hit in the head, kind of literally, time and time again. And it's a story you tell yourself about your tragedy, right? Like, are you telling a story of victimhood, or are you telling a story of how you overcome something and how this was meant to be?
Yes.
This is better this way, so because it allowed me to do this stuff.
Yes.
And that's in the end, that's an internal narrative.
Yeah.
Whether it's true or not is kind of irrelevant because it's just reality.
Yeah.
And so it's just about the story that we tell ourselves. That's a whole chapter in my book. But explain your journey on that one.
Yeah. I think it's very important that we get clarity around the difference between a counterparty and an enemy.
Counterparty and enemy. Yeah.
Enemy, you destroy enemies, without a doubt. Definitionally, enemies are threats that do not contain opportunities within them. Like that's one of the key attributes of a wise person is they're always looking for to extract opportunities from threats. Mm-hmm. And if there's no opportunity within the threat, then that thing is an enemy, and you should destroy it or ignore it if you can. During a campaign, you're so emotionally involved. At least I was. You consider different people your enemies over time at points. I remember we had a dartboard in our campaign office with one of the candidates up there throwing darts.
Yeah, I know who you were throwing darts at.
You know who it was.
Yeah, and you write about it in the book. I mean, in hindsight, you feel like it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you felt, and then that's how you tie in kind of Alexander's own story to your own a little bit.
And you tend to make your worst decisions whenever your pride is at risk.
Yeah.
Right. And especially if it's a public pride risk where you're going to be defeated on national news, you make really, really poor decisions. I did anyway. And so when I got through that and I realized just sort of objectively that, hey, I just got beat by a better man, and I didn't realize that the same day. It took some reflection. It took some because the person that you entered the runoff with, he was a Baptist deacon like I was. Like I had more in common with him than I had with you. Mm-hmm. But I started thinking about the country. I started thinking about my daughters. I started thinking about my grandchildren. And I started thinking about those 9 debates. And I had a lot of information on both of you. I knew a lot about both of you, probably more than any other voter did. And I decided, you know what, this is a person that I think I can trust with, the future of my kids and my grandkids, knowing that a lot of people stay in Congress for a long time, that there would be some impact there. Separate, and of course, Shannon really liked Tara, so that helped her as well.
Yeah.
But I think
they're both like New Kids on the Block, as we learned.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
We both had to go. Just admit it.
Do you want to tell the story? Or you want me to tell the story?
That's the story on camera. We've admitted it. But our wives made us go.
They made us go. Yeah. But I think
I did not enjoy. I mean, it was whatever. It was cool.
But I think also like us developing a friendship and Shannon and Tara developing a friendship the years afterwards gave me some reflection that, hey, I probably would not have done the job very well at that time, especially.
With all the, and I didn't even know this really about you until later, of all the struggles on the personal side. Yeah. It would have been relentless. And, what I've learned about Congress is, you have 3 young girls, like, how old were they back then?
Oh, man, they were probably 11, 8, and 6, maybe.
It's terrible. Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So you'll never see them.
Yeah.
You'd have to move to DC if you really put them in school in DC if you're going to see them. That's the rule. It's not a rule. It's reality of young kids, and that's why you don't have a lot of congressmen with young kids.
Yeah.
Those of us who do, there's starting to be more of us, and actually we have some demands of the speaker. So we'll go back is like a lot of our kids are turning 2. It's like, okay, I can't even travel with them. It's just, I can, I can't afford, it's just a whole, it's really hard. and 3 young girls that you actually won't care about, want to be with.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You never realize the sacrifices you're making until you've already made them.
Yeah.
You never realize how important those things were to you, and then also you never realize how good or bad of a job you would have done at something until after you've already tried to do that job. And I look and see the stuff that you've been through, the decisions you had to make. That I don't know that I could have concentrated and made those quality decisions at the same time, given all the sort of the personal parameters that I had going as well. And so, so when I
Better to be in my position with no successful businesses at all. It is way easier.
I had dinner. So when I was running against you, I went to DC and I had dinner with a member of Congress who had a very successful business before, and I think he had a construction business. And he had to basically give it all to his wife to run while he was in Congress, and he couldn't touch the money.
Right, you can't run it. They still get money somehow. Like but they can't. It's in a trust or something.
But he was telling me how miserable he was. He was telling me how miserable he was. He plays golf once a month. He can only afford to play golf once a month. He ate popcorn. He ate the free popcorn, I think at the Congressional Club or wherever it was, for dinner. That's what he ate. He said, I can't afford to eat out. And I can't buy him dinner. And so that really said a lot to me as well during that time period. But So the business was starting to struggle. Our home had just been flooded in Hurricane Harvey in August.
Yeah, you guys had real bad flooding.
Yeah, so
we were both running on this. I mean, this was the issue of the election by far.
Yeah.
And tell us about that actually.
Yeah. And so I remember. So I was going to primary Ted Poe about a year and a half before that.
Oh, really? You were already thinking about it?
Yeah. So I had coffee or breakfast with a friend of mine a year and a half before, who is fairly well in local politics, and he said, like, Rick, it's just not the right time. He's too strong, and I think maybe he had some cancer diagnosis. He had some sort of health scare around that time.
Leukemia.
Yeah. And so he was sort of in a treasured type of role there, and he's just politically, it's not worth it. Just wait.
He's popular.
Yeah.
He's Judge Poe.
Yeah. So I remember the night that I heard that he was retiring. I called that same gentleman, and he said, "Yeah, now's probably time to go ahead and jump in." He calls the NRCC, and NRCC, someone up there refers someone to run my campaign, and it was all like within the same night. I flew to meet this guy at an airport. I think I met him at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport.
Yeah.
We had an hour-long meeting. He took the assignment, and then I flew back.
Yep.
And then I was in the race.
Within days, I mean, same with that. I think within days, it was like moved back in with my parents.
Yeah.
In spring. I mean, we were on opposites. So the old district was Northwest Houston and Northeast Houston. Now it's all different, and who knows what it'll be in a week. But as we record this, it's all up in the air. But
So it was one of those things where I didn't have flood insurance in my house, so I was rebuilding my house. I was outside the house. I remember talking to this gentleman outside the house on my phone while the construction was happening inside the house.
Yeah.
And we ran the whole campaign from upstairs. Like we were in one of the guest bedrooms upstairs, kind of there. We had our kitchen.
I remember that.
Our kitchen was a makeshift kitchen in the media room upstairs. We had a little tiny refrigerator, and we had all of our food and our dishes in boxes.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
I
think we were at your house at least at one
Maybe so,
point
yeah.
during some of the construction. I mean, everybody flooded. I mean, Harvey was just people who aren't from here maybe don't understand. It's absolutely massive, and it's not just the Lake Houston area. There's the other. Actually, the old second district we ran in was by far the worst hit of any possible district. It just encompassed all of the worst areas. At Bear Creek, way out west.
Yeah.
That's 6 feet of water, and then the Kingwood area, like Lake Houston area, 6-7 feet of water, like in your home for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Like that's. And I came back home just to volunteer. I had zero political ambitions. Like we're just totally opposite. Like I had policy ambitions. I had a master's degree in public policy, and my undergrad is in international relations. Like that was always my interest, and I never wanted to leave the military anyway. So I was like, how do I just kind of do something in government? And I couldn't figure it out. I mean, I wouldn't have even been looking for it, you know.
Yeah.
So somebody had to like point it out, like, well, why don't you maybe try that? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe one day. They're like, well, what district are you from? I said, well, it would be the second district. And I look it up. Oh, Ted Poe announced retirement. But I never even would have looked that up or known.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have even come across my radar if somebody had pointed out to me, and then similar story to you, we just went for it. And the rest is history. But things improved. I guess my question to you is like, talk real quick about how failures can turn into opportunities, and that's kind of what your story is with this election. I mean, you guys did pretty well afterwards, and a lot of things went better. And I know Shannon has talked to us about that, so maybe say that for a little.
Yeah, a very public loss is a very public pain. And when your wife is talking for months about trying to hire a nanny, fly the kids up to homeschool them, set up a second house, things like that, she has these certain assumptions. And of course, I'm talking about myself for months at a time, ignoring my family. And so that's not a healthy way to live inside the environment of a family.
Yeah.
And so you have all these pressures that are happening, and the outside pressures, again, not reasons, they're just excuses, but these are sort of compounding things that did not help my marriage, did not help my home life get through, plus the financial pressures. But as we moved out of that, my wife and I learned Shannon and I, we learned how to communicate again. We learned that we could get through hardships together, much like, you and Tara have been through much more than we have. But we've gotten through hardships, and we're able to build sort of this resiliency and this fortitude, I mean, you wrote the premier book on fortitude, on mental toughness, which I encourage everyone to read. But the fortitude that's necessary to get through, like with your spouse, through something together, is sort of a higher dimension type of fortitude, because it relies on both of you. And we realized that we could get through certain things together, and it was just a blessing to our marriage over time. But it took us probably a year or two to realize that was truly a blessing.
Well, I mean, you're right that the only way to really grow is through sacrifice and struggle, and joy requires pain. So maybe unpack that a little bit. I mean, and I write similar things about seeking challenge, because some people's lives are just too damn good, and let's be honest, like it's some people have had really tough experiences that have shaped them, others haven't, and so you kind of have to seek your own challenges sometimes, right? And that, because like I said, joy requires pain. I think that I don't think that implicitly makes sense, but maybe unpack it a little bit.
So joy is found in the contrast. The man who has very, very minimal pains, very minimal challenges, and has very minimal successes, he doesn't really live much of a life, if you think of life sort of as a frequency. The man that receives great accomplishments, very little pain, it's not an earned accomplishment, because he never had to really ascend out of anything of depth.
By definition, it cannot be, because it's like it's really hard to make it. And everyone you talk to is a major whatever. They really did work hard, and but there are others who were just, it was given to.
It was given to them. That's right.
They kind of always end up failing in some sort of way.
You never value that which you never earn.
Yeah.
And so it becomes more difficult. So the beauty and the value in life is found in the contrast, sort of in the spread between the trough of defeat, of pain, and the heights of joy. And that ends up being what the definition of joy is. It's the delta between the lowest trough to the highest peak. And so the man that also sort of a greater benefit than just the joy, a man that experiences the lowest depths and the highest highs also has a better story to tell. Mm-hmm. And over time, we begin to see the idea of the narrative of the story being attached to the idea of meaning and in the end relevance. And I'm happy to talk about this in depth as well, but the idea that meaning can be found without the depths of pain is a false idea. It requires pain. And in the end, so I talk about this a little bit in the book as well. You look at the great soul singers,
And I want to clarify, like, pain doesn't have to mean tragedy. It can mean just hard work, right? Like just sacrificing your leisure time.
Yeah.
Just to put it in like context for what we mean, like because too many kids think it's like, no, I can have both.
Yeah.
I know you can't have both.
Yeah. You'll either have temporal pain willingly, or you'll have permanent pain eternally. You never get both. And so we realized that, like soul music, for instance, soul music came out of, was birthed out of slavery. Like you see a whole genre of music that's birthed out of slavery. They couldn't sing that soul music unless they experienced the hardships of slavery and of suffrage. And we're very much like that. We're very much like that. The only reason that you ever would hope for the sun to come out is because there's storm clouds present. The only reason that you would hope for a light is because you've experienced the darkness. Like there's these, you can say it 100 symbolic ways.
Yeah.
But the real story is that you have to apply yourself, and sometimes it's necessary for you to embrace discomfort, embrace pain, embrace delayed gratification in order to get anywhere in life. And that's the way that I found this. I say this in the book. I said that a painless world would only birth joyless lives.
Painless, yeah. I mean, it would, because I mean, there's a veneer, I suppose, of joy, which we might call happiness, or however we define it. But it's not deep, and it's not meaning. Pursue. We go back to our founding, pursue our happiness, and some may take that to mean pursue the sort of hedonistic sense of pleasure and comfort, but that's not really what the founders meant. They had a different definition of happiness, and their implication was much more along the lines of true meaning. Meaning defined really, I think what we would describe as biblical terms.
Yeah.
And even if you're an atheist, I think that's still true of Western civilization.
Yeah.
And that's tougher and tougher these days in an era of, there's almost too many options.
Yeah.
I think that's what's hurting young folks. Okay, we got to go because unfortunately, this is just the time. But let's give one last message to your target audience here. About, you talk about facing the unknown with courage. It's kind of related to that. I'll give you some options here because there's so many good chapters. But what matters most in the end, and what's our last message to the 25-year-old who's like, what am I doing with my life? Why do I have to pay $4,000 in rent? I don't know. What do you got?
Yeah. The more I read, the more I spoke to people like yourself that are, I consider world-class competent leaders, I began to see the same themes. And you see the same things even in agriculture, that the only way to have a tree to shade you and to give you fruit is to bury the seed. In business, the only way that we're going to have an income that overcomes the wariness of inflation is to invest our money, like literally to give it to somebody else, to lose the money and give it to somebody else that'll go and use entrepreneurial endeavor to be able to invest and give you a return on it.
And risk.
Risk, that's right. It's risk. It's a form of sacrifice, and it's also a form of risk. Nothing that you've not given away will ever really be yours. Mm-hmm. Nothing that you've not given away will ever really be yours. Christ says it like this. He says that anyone that wants to save their life will lose their life, but whoever loses their life for my sake will find their life. Mm. That the only way to get a bit of love is to give yourself away, like literally give your life away for someone that you do love. Mm-hmm. And that's, in the end, the only way to actually have a real life is to have a love that you're willing to give it for. Like it
all comes back to the concept of sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice. You can't keep anything you don't give away. Your competency, unless you're able to go practice your trade, you're never able to ever develop competency in it. And so you've got to be able to sacrifice what you want to have. You have to give it away first in order to actually ever able to keep it.
I want to have more time playing Call of Duty.
Yes.
You have to sacrifice that.
Oh, that'd be great.
You have to sacrifice that.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so life is built in paradox. Life is built in paradox. And the only pathway to receive what you want is by giving up that very thing you most wish to embrace. The thing you want to hoard is the thing you most need to give up.
Mm. It is a paradox, but if you think hard enough about it, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Rick, thank you very much, and thanks for writing this. Thanks for being my friend. 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning. Rick Walker.
Forward by Dan Crenshaw.
Only.
Forward by Dan Crenshaw.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. We could talk forever
it.
about a whole number of subjects, but I have to go to a middle school.
Awesome.
Great to have you on.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap.